All right, let's talk about a word you use all the time, probably without even thinking about it. On the surface, it seems super simple, but underneath, it's a huge logical puzzle. The word many. So let me ask you straight up, how many is many? Seriously, take a second. What number just popped into your head? Was it 10? 100? Maybe 1,000? Well, here's the thing. There's no single right answer. And that is where things start to get really interesting. I mean, just look at these two examples. If someone says there are many stars in the galaxy, you're thinking billions, right? An absolutely mind-boggling number. But if they say there are many keys on a keyboard, you're thinking, what, like 100? It's the exact same word, but the meaning is just light years apart. So how in the world does our brain just get it instantly? And this is the whole enigma. Many is a word that completely depends on context. It's built on it. And while that flexibility is amazing for us in everyday conversation, we do it without even blinking, it is an absolute nightmare for systems like math and logic, because those systems need one thing above all else: precision. Yeah, there's actually a technical term for this: vagueness. Think about a number, like 7. It's crystal clear. 7 is always 7. But words like many, or tall, or warm, they're fuzzy. They don't have sharp edges. There's no magic line you cross where something stops being a few and all of a sudden becomes many. Okay, so if we're gonna crack this case, we've got to follow the evidence. And our first big lead, the most important one, is context. It's like the secret key that unlocks what many means every single time. Here's a great way to think about it. The word big works the same way. A big chair is, big for a chair. But compared to even the smallest galaxy, it's not even a speck of dust. The word itself, big, doesn't have a size. The context is what gives it its scale. So how does context actually do this? Well, a few ways. First, it's about the group of things we're even talking about. You just expect there to be more stars than, say, pencils. It's also about our own expectations in a conversation. And then there's this cool idea linguists call domain restriction. It sounds complicated, but it's super simple. If I say many students passed, you automatically know I'm only talking about students. You're not wondering about the teachers or the janitors or the squirrels outside. Your brain just restricts the domain. See? You do it all the time. Okay, but this total reliance on context, it creates a huge problem. It's the exact point where our normal tools for thinking, logic, math, they just completely fall apart. So why is it that these systems, which are designed for perfect clarity, just can't handle a simple word like many? Well, there are a few big reasons. First, you get what are called truth gaps. Logic loves things to be either true or false, black or white. But a sentence like 10 pencils are many pencils, is that true? Is it false? It's kind of in the gray area. Second, its meaning isn't isomorphic. That's just a fancy way of saying you can't just slap a simple math rule onto it and have it work. And maybe most importantly, this fuzziness leads to some truly mind-bending paradoxes. And the most famous one of all is called the Sorites paradox. You might know it as the heap paradox. It's this ancient puzzle that perfectly, and I mean perfectly, shows why vague words are so tricky. Okay, walk through this with me. Imagine 1,000,000 grains of sand. We can all agree that's a heap, right? No question. Now, here's the rule, and it seems totally reasonable. Removing just one single grain of sand can't turn a heap into a non-heap. Makes sense. So we take one away, still a heap. Take another away, still a heap. You see where this is going. If we keep doing this one grain at a time, eventually we're left with just one single grain of sand. And boom, that's the contradiction. Our perfectly logical rule has led us to a ridiculous conclusion that one grain of sand is a heap. How can that be? So yeah, this paradox drove philosophers and logicians crazy for centuries. But now, we've got some new detectives on the case. Researchers in linguistics and philosophy have come up with some really clever ways to try and solve this puzzle once and for all. Let's look at 3 of the big theories. You've got fuzzy logic, which basically says truth isn't an on-off switch. It's more like a dimmer. A sentence can be, say, 80% true. Then there's dynamic semantics. This idea suggests that the meaning of many actually gets clearer and more precise during a conversation. It's like we're agreeing on the rules as we play. And finally, you have probabilistic models. This theory says our brain is basically a super powerful prediction machine, always calculating the most likely meaning of a word like many based on all the clues it has. And here's the really brilliant part. What all these new ideas have in common is that they've stopped trying to fight language's nature. They're not trying to force many into a neat, precise little box. Instead, they're embracing the messiness, the context, the probability, as a core part of how we communicate. So that brings us to the end of our investigation. We've looked at the enigma, followed the clues, and heard from the experts. So what's the final verdict on the case of the word many? It's simple, really. Vagueness isn't a bug, it's a feature. And it might just be language's secret superpower. I mean, really think about it. That little bit of imprecision is what makes us so efficient. You can get a point across without having to stop and count everything. It's what lets us talk about the keys on a keyboard 1 minute and the stars in the universe the next, using the exact same word. It's this amazing system that works because we all share a basic understanding of how the world works. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Imagine if our language was perfectly precise, like computer code. No gray areas, no vagueness. What would we lose? Think about our jokes, our stories, even just a simple, quick conversation. How much of what makes us human would just vanish? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this one.